PH. Now, ENPH is more tricky. It just said 1 day of pullback. Like, I don't know if that's enough of a pullback. It may be if it holds this kind of 76 zone, but it may, it may need a little bit more. And this FANG looks like a little bit of a hot mess on the daily. Good morning, guys. What's going on? How's everybody doing? Sweet. Let's get to work. All right. Hold on 1 second. Let's get to work. All right, so we got what? 1 day left in the year, 2 days left in the year. So we got some things to do, people. This market, with the stimulus kind of news coming out and stuff like that, the market is just starting to grind higher. Yesterday, you saw it, like the market dipped down at the open. It almost looked like, it was going to roll over, and then it caught some footing at the 20 EMA, and then it just ramped back. Now, a little bit about yesterday, though, was even though the market was cruising up to highs, if you notice, you weren't getting any follow through in like speculative names. Like spec stocks themselves were all getting smoked, even though the market was grinding higher, and that can happen certain times. So what's happening is, like you saw, like yesterday, like Apple was just going, Apple's really strong, and Amazon was really strong. So the indexes were lifting, but in terms of like the kind of more speculative names that, normally we would like to trade, which could be like your EV companies or your battery companies, so on and so forth, that wasn't really happening. If anything, right, there was a broad-based sell-off in a lot of these kind of more speculative names, and frankly, that could keep going. That could very well keep going. Obviously everything is very, very extended, and 1 day doesn't necessarily make a pullback. 1 day doesn't really mean anything. So, we have to kind of always take that, into account and say, like, all right, like, yesterday's action was interesting, kind of. Now, like, where do we go from there, right? So I think a lot of these names, like that, were really getting smoked out yesterday. We should be watching these for some type of continuation to the downside. They may pop up a little bit at the open, but frankly, when you're like this long in the tooth on so many names, it's not obscene to have, right, like a multi-day pullback. So we may very well like have to take some of these bad boys down if we start to see them. So I would add like stocks like Blink, SPE. There's a whole host of these named Butt Plug, right, that were like really. I mean, man, we should have been probably knee deep in some of these. Watch for any kind of pop on these, and then green to red moves, meaning when you see this thing, say this plug like pops back up to like say 35 or something like that. What you really want to do is, right, we want to start looking to see how price starts to react around the levels of resistance, and then we'll look for an intraday pattern to come in and shred this thing back to the downside. So there's a lot of good kind of, I think, shorts that may start to bleed out a little bit that we'll have to kind of keep an eye on. This ENPH is another one. Like, it had a nasty down day, right? 14 points. Like, you may get a little bit of a pop on this, and then we may want to look at like potentially re-rolling and shorting this one. ZM, same thing, right? Bleeder yesterday into all pops. Now you're starting to get, right, like, this is a longer term head and shoulders pattern, right? Head and boulders pattern, whatever you want to call it, where you got just lower high, and you're starting to really bleed out on this thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing hit 300, maybe even a little bit lower. If you're really thinking like the scheme of things, right? So like if you're looking really into the scheme of things, this thing was, the beginning of the year was like $80, right? So it runs to $600. Like, you can still bleed out on these things, especially like a lot of the push on this thing was what? Because, right, people are, at home using it. And, now as people are not going to be at home, maybe the kind of cachet of it is over for a little bit. But just something to kind of be mindful of when you're looking at some of these. So I would add in these solars, ZM, these battery companies like Blink, SBE and Butt Plug for some pullbacks today on green to red moves. VJ, we're mostly, pattern and setup traders. I guess you're always going to trade both. Good. Now let's talk about on the long side, right? So first thing we want to do every single day is what? We want to go through our pre-market scan, see what kind of stocks have earnings out, what kind of stocks have news out. Stocks that have some type of PR out, they tend to move in more exaggerated ways than just pure technical setup. So, you want to start running kind of through a gapper scan to see what's going on. In general, I stay away from these kind of small caps because they just, they just stress me out. But, I see you see some of these things kind of really cooking, but on the other side of things, right, they always come all the way back down. Imagine you're the guy that bought up there. That just doesn't sound like a fun time, does it? So let's go through these and see if we got anything here. A lot of these are Candy Eye, Ultimate Turd. I don't want to give Blizzy a boner over this, so we can't even really trade that. Nicola's got some kind of PR out, but you can see, like, this is just this stock has just been in the dumper anyways. Like that's not, when you trade like stocks that have some kind of earnings out, you really want it to be some smoking hot stock, right? Man, those actually Goldman Sachs adjusting that price target at 70. Yo, sometimes these Goldman Sachs upgrades do put a little bit of heat on this. Now, Snap is like a little bit of a thicker stock. It's got a billion share flow. So what we want to really be doing on this is looking for like that first pullback. Let's see if it starts to hold. It's been bleeding out for a few days anyways. So, on a short-term basis, you're probably a little bit, oversold. I'd actually add that to the gapper list. What you want to look for on something like this, because it's a thicker stock, you want to do either a quick pullback buy. It's sometimes ORBs, but usually like the first pullback, right, 920 EMA, watch it, see where it holds. If you start to grind along those levels, you may get a nice little shot on this. I like that one. Fucking Lemonade. All right. Lemonade, dip and rip for some reason. Interesting. So Lemonade's remounting to 9 EMA. So you've got a pullback from 130 to 103. 100 is like a lot of support on this. You're starting to already see it whip through. This like spot, we were fucking around with this a little bit yesterday. There's a spot here around 114 that I think if it takes it out, like we're gonna be having some fun. Good. Yeah, I think, man, it can be hot. This thing could be hot. Let's give it about 114, and then, man, we'll take this thing. I like this one. Let's add that to the list. I think that one's gonna be hot. Let's add that. Sun W. Actually, this Sun W is kind of interesting. When you got, like solars have been hot, like, all year, right? This is like one of those ones that's like been a little bit of a trailer. I don't think it's probably a good day trader, but there's probably going to be a little bit of a swing in here somewhere. If the solar market stays hot, I think that this one will probably get picked up at some point. YQ, this is like another really good looking chart. This is an IPO stock. IPO's been hot all year. I don't know if this thing is day tradable, but you've got yourself like a nice support zone right at 14. If it starts to kind of push out of that range and like hold this 15 zone, I think this one, like, you may see a quick like spike into the 20 spot over the next few days. It just doesn't have the liquidity for me to want to go out and shred this thing back and forth on the day trade side, but I think it's got a chance. This EHONG is like a nice IPO too. You see how like every single pullback on this thing has been getting bought? So this is like what you call like a trend continuation play, right? Where, you get like a big spike, it might move like 20, 30%, and then it rolls back. You end up with, man, those things can work pretty well. I think what you got to do on this bad boy is just, I think, you can play something like this, frankly. Yeah, I worry about the liquidity on it. I don't know if it's going to have like just a huge hot heat on it. It was in a little bit of a dumper, but you're starting to hold at this old breakout spot. I think we got better plays than that, gut feeling. So I'd probably leave that alone. Baba's starting to cook out of range. It was stuck at this, man. It was like the Lord himself was holding it down at 225 yesterday. And you're starting to see, like, let's go to like a 15-minute chart. You can see here, let me remove all this pre-market junk. Hold on here. Yeah, you can, what the fuck? You see, like, right at this, like, 225, like, it had been just stuck, and that was the ORB spot from a couple days ago, and so you can see, like, it's just been, like, hanging, right at that 225 zone. You're into the gap fill. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing maybe go back into, like, the 240s, the next couple days. I think we give this a shot. I'd watch like the first pullback on this. Why? It's a huge float stock, dude. This has got a monster cock float on it. It trades a little bit thick. It's algo city for the most part on it. So what you want to do is let that thing pull back, let it grind around a little bit, and see where it settles. But I think we add Baba to the list too. All right, so we got Baba. Snap. And this Excel's a hoe. Snap. Lemonade. Dun, 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 dun. Junk. Let's see what's going on the downside. Hey Vic, what's going on, baby? I've been trading a long time, but I've never heard of a stock running rampant because it moved to the S&P mid cap index. I don't have any experience with it, but I've not seen that happen before. Yeah, and the chart stinks. I don't know, maybe it pops up a little bit, but that's not a setup. Like, like a lot of times, when we're trading, we say like, okay, XYZ is going to happen, therefore, right, price must go up. And it usually doesn't work in a linear manner like that. So you got to be a little bit careful when you're dealing with, some of these things. That's going to be, I don't know. I think that one's a little bit busted. I mean, it's oversold, so it's due for a bounce. It's just like how much of a bounce. Damn. Look at this thing. $150. Now this could be a rubber band setup. Yeah, you're sitting, you know what? You pull back from 150 down to 80. You're sitting at the 50 SMA. You got 16 stochastics on this thing. I mean, that could actually work. And yeah, you can see like mRNA. Both of those, I would keep on watch for rubber band setups. Let me see what NVAX is looking. So look, this mRNA, you got 13 stochastics on this, is $170. Pulled back into 80, sitting right at the 50 SMA. This actually might, this might be something. Let's see how it reacts around here. If it goes red to green today, man, I think we add these two. So the CVAC is probably not going to, it will move more and less thick, but it's not going to have as much volume. mRNA will have a lot more volume, but it'll have more shakeouts because it has more volume. So, you have a whole host of, people running around in it. Man, I think those might be the top of the list. RMG, this thing was $40, back down to 9. I've been watching it. I'm not sure on it yet. It may need a couple more days. Not a priority. Word to the wise too. I think 2020 is gonna be 2020 is a very easy year to trade. I think 2021 is gonna be a little bit more difficult. You got to really work on your entries and stuff. 2020 we were just. I mean, there are days you're just throwing shit at the wall, right? And then a couple things work out and you end up with a big day. You didn't really necessarily need the precision. Almost everything worked out, over time. I think 2021, we're starting to see a little bit, we may have a little bit more back and forth in the market, and you're going to have to be a lot more precise, gut feeling. BNTX, that could work too. Man, I think the location on mRNA is just better. Now, Baidu I like. Baidu's got a breakout here. I think this is top of the list. This is top of the list. If it takes out 199-ish, we're going to have some fun on this bad boy. What you think? Yeah. Good. Yeah, I think this one, you've got a nice level here. At some point, it's going to rip over 200, and then, we'll see what's going on. But it's we got a shot on this bad boy. This thing's hot to trot. We got a nice, easy location on this. I think that's top of the list right there. What you think? Yeah, it is. It's got to be, right? So you put Baidu at the top of the list. Hey, this AI, if IPOs do pick up today, you're sitting right on the 9 EMA on this thing. That's a good sweet spot right there. That you're gonna, you've got multiple days of pullback. So when I have a pullback trade, ideally, I want to see, 2, 3, 4 days of pullback. You're starting to get it on this. I think this one's gonna give us a good shot. Yeah, that's a good looker right there, huh? Yeah, I think Baidu's the top. We're going to short battery stocks, and then we've got these gappers here. We got Baba on the first pullback, CVAC, Lemonade, mRNA, and then we got Snappy Chat. I mean, we're going to have a full boat we got full boat. Snap. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. We don't need anything else. Good. Yeah, VLDR is okay. I think laser moves a little bit better. That's the list, though. I'm sticking to it. We got no different options. You know what, Fubo? I've been staring at it for days. We'll see what's going on. Fubo might work. Cool. That's the list. Let's get to work today.